What's up guys, Dr. Scheme here, how you doing? So I didn't know if I was going to make this video or not because I feel like everyone knows the problems with Disney Channel and how they've changed over the years. But this video is not just to slam Disney and say what they're doing wrong, but also to say what they're doing right, and to figure out, are they as bad as people say? This is the first video in a new series called Are They Bad? So grab your snacks, sit back and relax. Let's go. What did they do? I thought about this over for a while and I thought, what made the shows from the early 2000s and mid 2000s so special? Then I realized, shows were relatable. Creators of shows knew their audience, but they didn't just hop on the trend bandwagon and expect their shows to be good. They understood that they needed to put in some trends and popular things, but they never tried to create a show surrounding it, and that's where a lot of shows today fall short. Another thing is they weren't strict. They followed basic regulations like no sex, drugs, murder, but with the drugs they were more lenient as long as they weren't like hard drugs and there was a good message behind it. For example, the last episode of That's So Raven, and to give him credit, an episode of Raven's Home called What About Your Friends? They talked about how doing drugs wasn't cool and the dangers that it can cause to your health. Finally, the ideas were fresh. For example, Lizzie McGuire. What other show had a cartoon version of the main character in the way that they used it? And then also, shows at that time didn't try to copy other shows or be just like another show to get popular. They were original. How have they changed? Well, the first thing I want to point out is that they push the be yourself message on kids too much. And you know, the be yourself message, the one they use in every show, every movie, you know, it could be a poster in the background for all I care. But they just put it in like every episode. And it's so bad. But like, yeah, it's a good message, but it's just, they overuse it in everything. And you know, if they used it a little less or just occasionally, then it will be a way better message. It would be a lot more powerful. But they keep doing it. So it just comes off a lot worse. The second point I want to make is there's no diversity. And what I mean by that is all the shows are the same. You know what I mean by that. Look at shows like Bizaardvark and Coop and Cammy. They're both trash shows, but they're the same show. They're legit the same show. Some kids on the internet, and these shows don't understand the internet at all, so yeah, that it's tragic. It's really bad, honestly. And finally, there are too many reboots. And let me just say, Disney's not the only one that has done this. There's been other companies like Nickelodeon, for example, that keeps making these reboots from shows that were popular in the 90s and early 2000s. But what they don't realize is that nobody wants to see the old shows. They want to see something new, something fresh. And for some reason, they just don't understand that and they can't do it. What are they doing right? Are they doing most things right, or are they just doing a few things right? Well, instead of giving you guys a list of good things that Disney is currently doing, I'm going to tell you about two different shows that really stand out. The first show is called Sydney to the Max. 3 generations are under one roof, as outgoing middle school student Sydney Reynolds lives with her single dad Max and progressive grandmother Judy. Living in the house where her father grew up, Sydney's preteen pursuits begin to expand and broaden with unexpected and hilarious twists. Grandma's razor-sharp memory and wit remind Max that Sydney's antics are mirrored by his and his best friend Leo's antics. As Max tries to get a better sense of his daughter, his mother is full of parental wisdom and wisecracks to help Max and Sydney with the support they need. The reason why I chose this show is because it's very original. Like the description says, Sydney's antics are mirrored by Max's. So the problems and ideas that Sydney has are all things that Max has already dealt with and learned from. And how the show is doing this is by showing flashbacks to Max's childhood. What I really like about this show is that even if it has some of the basic messages, like I said, like the be yourself message and all of that, they don't overuse it. And they truly try to show the consequences of your actions. The The second show is called Andy Mack. Life goes from routine to a roller coaster ride overnight for artistic teenager Andy Mack. It all happens on the eve of her 13th birthday, when free-spirited older sister Bex, who has been traveling around the world, returns home to make a revelation, which changes everything for the Mack family. It turns out that Bex isn't Andy's sister. She is her mother, and Celia, who Andy thought was her mom, is actually her grandmother. Learning this family secret sends Andy on an uncharted course of self-discovery. She's not alone on her journey. As best friends, Cyrus and Buffy are also trying to figure out their places in the world. Even though the show got canceled, it still had a good ending, and just so you guys know, it didn't get canceled because it was a bad show, but all I'll say is Bros was really trying to R. Kelly some kids. But besides that, it's a pretty good show. Andy Mack isn't a comedy show, so it doesn't have the laugh track or the whack Disney Channel fart jokes that, for some reason, Disney still thinks is a good idea. But this show takes on a more serious tone, and the reason why I say it's a more serious tone is because the show deals with more serious topics, and it's not like any other show on a kids network. It's so much more realistic, and there isn't some magical element or fake savior to come and rescue her from her problems. She has to deal with them like everyone else. If you're actually interested in watching these two shows, they are both on Disney Plus and on the Disney Now app. Now, what are they doing wrong? Well, the first show I'd like to point out is Gabby Byrne and the Unsittables. I'm not going to go into a full description of this show because honestly, there's no point in watching or even trying to recommend it to you. But basically, it's about this girl named Gabby Byrne and she babysits aliens. Now, this is a pretty cool idea. That's actually why I watched it. But the problem with this show is that there's nothing special about it. It's a pretty bland show and also the CGI is really bad. But when I say the show is bland, I mean the characters are basic and there's nothing that really draws my attention. Now, what I can say about the show that I really feel would make it better is if they gave her a sidekick or a partner, because then ideas would be tossed around and there would be a lot more places they could go with this show. The second show that I want to talk about is the one that I've mentioned a few times now. Coop and Cammy Ask the World. Now you might be asking, well, what's wrong with this show? Well, you guys know that show iCarly and how it was such a good show. Well, imagine that, but get rid of Carly, Sam, and Freddie. Now bring in two kids that have no idea what they're doing. Give them a friend named Fred, and give them a YouTube channel where they ask questions that nobody cares about. And there you have it. Coop and Cammy Ask the World. Now, what really bothers me about this show is the fact that it feels like a bunch of Karens and boomers, you know, them. The ones who make the shows for the cool kids and make sure they add in the cool trends, you know, gotta put in the whips and the dabs and the nay-nays, but you know, it's like they watched a random kid on YouTube, but didn't understand how YouTube works. Like, who told them this was a good idea? Honestly, just for that, Disney should retire that channel. Now, after all that waiting, I'm finally here to answer your question. Are they as bad as people say? Drumroll, please. No, it's not as bad as people say. Disney Channel has changed a lot definitely since the early 2000s and mid-2000s. But you know, they're not as bad as people say. And if you just watch a show and try not to think about it, it'll be a lot more enjoyable. Like, just sit back, watch, and don't try to compare it to any other show. Unless it's Coop and Cammy, then, you know, that show's just trash. But besides that, try to enjoy it, give it a try, and that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Peace.